What is going on, guys? We are back for our first episode of Pokemon Top 5s. Now, we're going to go in order down the Pokemon type chart, and we're going to go over our top 5s before Generation 9 is released. Now, this week's top 5, as well as any other top 5, is going to be 100% opinionated and is not going to be based off of stats or just strictly design. It's going to be based off a combination of things. Also, I will only be including primary and pure typings on these lists, just so that we have a little bit more diversity in the choices. But if your top 5 list is different or includes use of legendaries, make sure to leave it in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. But without further ado, let us get into this week's top 5. Alright guys, coming in at number 5, we have El Scizor Pokemon Galvantula. Now, this Pokemon, I really like the Pokemon for its typing and the uniqueness of the typing. So, normally when you think of electric types, I've always thought of them as being Pokemon that focus on speed, right? Well, bug typings focus on slowing down your opponent and kind of stalling your opponent, right? So what I think is really, really cool about this design is that Galvantula's whole thing is about slowing your opponent down, using speed from electricity as both a positive and a negative, right? Obviously, it has Compound Eyes, which is a pretty good competitive ability, allowing it to hit Thunders a little bit more easily. But what I really like about this Pokemon is kind of the creativity of combining the two typings' kind of strengths and figuring out a way to mold them together. Obviously, I'm not a huge fan of spiders, so it kind of dropped this down to number 5 just because I don't really like spiders. I wouldn't really use them in kind of rural situation, like a real world situation, sorry. So for me, it hit number 5, but I think it's a really cool Pokemon, and I think it deserved a shout out, and that's why I hit number 5. But moving on, let's get into number 4. Alright guys, number 4, we have Vikavolt, the Stag Beetle Pokemon. Now this Pokemon is so powerful that it needs to carry its pre-evolution Charge-a-Bug as a spare battery, so that when it shoots off just this crazy beam of electricity out of its like pincers there, it just can obliterate people. Now this Pokemon is not the greatest competitively. It's kind of based out of the new Generation 7. It's kind of slow, but under Trick Room, it hits super, super hard. It's a cool Pokemon in the sense that it actually has Levitate as an ability, so it kind of loses that electric only weakness that it really has. So you're really only dealing with other bug type weaknesses, which kind of makes it a little bit easier to use competitively. Now, it is hard to get in game, and so for me, this Pokemon is really heavily based on this top 5 for its design, because I've just never really got a chance to use it outside of competitive battlings in a more casual setting to see how I kind of mesh with it just kind of casually, right? But this Pokemon I think is super cool, has a really cool design, and obviously like it is a pretty strong Pokemon, so I thought it deserves a spot on this top 5. But let's move on to number 3. Alright guys, at number 3 we have a Scavalier, the cavalry Pokemon. Now this is a super cool design. Honestly, like I have been such a nerd for medieval like history like for my entire life. And so for me, having this Pokemon that just is like, you know, this little like floating bug that just acts like a horse like in like a lancing competition, like that's so cool, like in a jousting match. That's ridiculously cool. Obviously competitively, bug typing does bring down most of the Pokemon on this list. You know, that's just inevitable with the typing. You know, maybe someday it'll get balanced out a little bit, but for right now, as a Generation 8, you know, bug typing is one of the weaker typings, but its steel typing is super, super useful. And honestly, like you put this thing on the rain, you put this thing on a Trick Room team, it's gonna blow something up. And just very similar to our previous pick, Vikavolt, it's just the opposite, right? It's slow, it hits hard on the physical side instead of the special side, and honestly just a really cool looking Pokemon, and it had to be on number 3 for my list for me. You know, kind of the jump from like 4 to 3 is really where, for me, this list truly starts. You know, I think most people, you know, having a top 5, you're gonna have 3 that are pretty much a lock, and then another like 1 or 2 that you kind of go, okay, yeah, like it could switch out like kind of as my mood changes. But this is where the list starts for me, right? Excavalier is just a wicked cool Pokemon, and I think it had to be here, and it had to be prominent. And so with that, let's hop into number 2. Alright guys, coming in number 2, we have Volcarona, the Sun Deity Pokemon. Now this is another Pokemon that is based off of mythology. This kind of has more of an Aztec vibe to it, you know, praising the sun god. This Pokemon is one of the better Pokemon competitively, and it's one of the first Pokemon on this list that's really just able to set up and sweep you. Quiver Dance is such a good status move, and such a good move for setting up and just running over your opponents, right? You know, it gets a great coverage moves in Giga Drain and Energy Ball, which handle its weakness to Rock. And then really Fire and Bug are really good offensive typings when used appropriately. And if you can get a +1 speed, +1 special to defense, and +1 special attack, I mean, you're running through people, right? And so Volcarona, to me, you know, the design's really cool, has great lore behind it, and pretty good competitively. And also, like, just using this Pokemon, I really enjoy using this Pokemon when I get to use it. I don't know if it necessarily fits my style, and, you know, the design of it, I think it's a really cool design, but I don't think it's something that I would probably have, you know, me thinking of a Pokemon that I would want, like, in real life or on my own teams. Like, I don't know necessarily if I would want it there, but, you know, this is just a really cool Pokemon, and it had to be at number 2 on my list. But moving on, let us get into our number 1 slot. Our number 1 slot here is Scizor. Now, Scizor is one of the OG Pokemon. Honestly, for me, I started in Generation 3, so I don't really have the Scyther kind of nostalgia going with me here, but I think it's pretty unanimous throughout the Pokemon community that, you know, Scizor is absolutely a lock for a top 5 on anyone's list. Where it comes in at 1, 2, or 3, you know, is kind of just semantics, but for me, it's the number 1 Pokemon on this list. It's probably the only Pokemon on this list that I would legitimately be stoked to have it on my personal team moving forward. I think it's just so diverse in what it can do, right? It can attack, it can set up, it can, like, be kind of the support Pokemon. Like, it just does everything, and it has a cool Mega Evolution too. Like, I still kind of prefer regular Scizor, but in terms of its design, but Mega Scizor is obviously a super dope Pokemon, and for me personally, like, it's the most diverse Pokemon on this list, hands down, right? It isn't really the greatest competitively anymore, just because it's kind of one of those things where competitively you have to do something super well and do it better than anyone else. Well, Scizor doesn't do it better than anyone else. It's just able to do multiple jobs at the same time. And so it doesn't really shine as a sweeper. It doesn't shine as like a pivot, but it kind of does all of it, right? And so for me, just the versatility on this Pokemon, I really value. And that personally wraps up my top 5 list. Alright guys, so we are back here for the end of the video. Next week we'll be covering the Dark typing, as well as the Dragon typing following that. We're going to be doing an episode every single week. It should be every Wednesday that we're going to be doing these videos. But of course, as always guys, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you enjoyed the video, of course, and like I said, leave your top 5s in the comment section down below. I look forward to seeing them, and I will see you guys in the next one.